I'm gonna talk about Babel the Dark Flame. Everybody knows about this unit, and you would definitely say just by looking at him or sledging around the set, oh, actually, he got a true form and he's not as bad. I'm gonna explain the true form today. That's kind of the point of me bringing him up. Legend rares I will be reviewing first because they're the first to introduce true forms. Then I'll start with the anti-Aku units. And we'll start with from the oldest true forms of the anti-Aku, which is Lilin, to the newest. So, High Lord Babel for both stats on two forms. First and second, same stats. Same exact stats. You can use them however you like. I prefer second form as it's more dark and gives him kind of like the kind of Dragon Emperor way. They're supposed to be dark and evil. He's one of them. So, already a plus there. Babel's main issues that he had, and he still kind of has. Babel's main issues for first and second form is that he has a really expensive cost. He generally can't keep enemies off of him with his long attack rate. His attack rate is so long that he can't really deal damage. 75% of the time he's going to be missing his attacks. And he really doesn't have relevant immunities. His two immunities are kind of useless. I mean, the slow is good, and the freeze is okay in certain situations. I think Babel's main immunities that he needed, personally, that would have actually made him a good tank is one, knockback, and this is second form. We're talking about first and second form. Two would probably be toxic because there's a few with toxic. Three, curse immunity. Fourth, surge and wave. Fourth, surge, and then fifth, wave. That would have been the main appeals because those are the ones that would have kind of grasped him as a unit. The main problem why people don't like Babel is because he can't keep enemies off him. You need support units for Babel really badly. It is very similar with Hades. The reason Hades dies so quickly is because his DPS is so ridiculously low that he can't keep enemies off of him, and he ends up dying really, really, really quickly. And people are like, oh, no, Hades' DPS isn't that bad. It's actually horrible because he has 3 ticks, meaning that every time he attacks, he's going to miss his other 2 ticks, or one of his ticks, which is pretty major. And he also has below average DPS for his range. So that's why Hades generally, he's very similar to Babel in the terms that he suffers from that problem. Babel fixes very few things in his true form. The toxic, and I talked about this, the toxic and the knockback community are really good as a lot of, there are a few floating enemies that have toxic, and Babel can't get controlled by that anymore. And there are a lot of enemies that are red that have knockback, and a few that are floating that have knockback. Now Babel can prevent that. There's still 2 main problems. One, he attacks too slow. So you're never going to be able to get him to attack 75% of the time. 2, he's still just as expensive. And I've seen a lot of people argue, oh, it's now worth it. It really isn't. Because he can't keep enemies off of him. Unlike tanks like Kai, he cannot keep enemies off of him. Unlike tanks like Pepe and Ray. Yes, Ray and Pepe are technically tanks. He can't keep enemies off of him. So he is technically going to keep getting damage until he dies. And let me tell you, since he can't keep enemies off of him, he's dying rather quickly. He's going to die much quicker. His animation is still too long. His speed is still too slow, so he's not able to get in the front line. And he's really not that worth it to bring out. He is definitely mediocre. His Colossus Slayer is kind of irrelevant, as he can only really be relevant against 2. The rest of the Colossus are too aggressive, and the 2 he can be good against are Megamuth and JJ Jackrabbit. The rest of them suck because they are so powerful. They'll just push Babel until he dies. Babel only has 400,000 effective health against non-targeted, meaning not floating or red, against them. If he didn't have that, which I think it would be like 400,000, he would have times 7, 2.8 million, right? Not too bad, seems like. Babel's true form didn't improve him. It really didn't. He has better health. He has way better health, okay? But it really didn't improve him that much. Babel is still in the same rank I would ever rank him. He's still definitely probably the worst legend rare you'd ever own. He's definitely really good as a tank. But in late game, it is really major you get things out early. And Babel is the exception. you'll have to wait until like mid-stage to actually be able to bring Babel out to tank. And by that point, you'll already almost be finished with the stage. There's really no point for targeting any legend rare like Babel. He's a really cool legend rare to own, but he's relatively mediocre. And I just don't think his true form really improved him. It really didn't. It's so disappointing to say this. The true form never improved him. It's like Sodom. Sodom's true form never improved him. It's just Sodom 2.0 still. Babel better get good talents, because let me tell you, it's his attack rate that messes him up. It's nothing else. If you had let's say he had 1 second animation, it would be much better for him to go and just get rid of things. He would only miss 25% of the time instead of the original 75%. This is what should have been increased. The immunities should have been better. There are really lackluster immunities in here. There should have been another immunity, Surge and Wave, so he didn't get... As you know, there is one Surge and a few Wave units that Babel could manage. But of course, Ponos, he's lackluster. Just saying. Summary, Babel's true form is lackluster. He is mediocre in his true form for a legend rare. Not in general. In general, he's a B tier. He's always been a B tier. He's still a B tier. He's just mediocre as a legend rare. So if he was on legend rare tier list, C tier. He is not good. He is like mediocre. You will never really need him. There are much better legend rares to bring out. That summarizes Babel. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry to say this for people that really love Babel. My opinion though. But thanks for watching. And as always, peace.